right now, as you're watching this, you're breathing. Feel that for a moment. The air moving in and out of your lungs isn't just oxygen and nitrogen. According to ancient Hermetic wisdom, it's a living mode of consciousness itself. But somewhere along the way, we forgot this. We turned the elements into cute personality quizzes and astrological generalizations. We made earth into stubbornness, water into emotions, fire into passion, and air into intellect. What if I told you that this reduction has cost us something profound? A way of experiencing reality that our ancestors understood as fundamental to human existence. The four elements weren't invented by ancient mystics looking for poetic metaphors. They were discovered through direct experience, through generations of people who understood that consciousness itself has different qualities, different textures, different ways of engaging with the world. When Hermeticism speaks of the elements, it's not describing symbols or archetypes. It's mapping the actual territories of awareness that every human being can access and cultivate. Think about the last time you felt truly grounded, when your thoughts weren't scattered and you felt solid in your own skin. That wasn't just a mood or a psychological state. That was you touching the elemental quality of earth within your own consciousness. And the ancient Hermeticists would say, you can learn to inhabit that quality deliberately, to cultivate it as a specific mode of being. To understand how this works, we need to explore each element as a distinct mode of consciousness, starting with the one that grounds all the others, the element that teaches us what it means to be fully present in form itself. Earth is the element we most fundamentally misunderstand in our disembodied age. Earth isn't about being slow or stubborn or materialistic. Earth is about density and form. It's the quality of consciousness that can perceive structure, that can sense the weight and substance of things, that knows how to inhabit a body fully. When you're in earth consciousness, you're not thinking about your body, you are your body. You feel the pull of gravity, not as a physical force, but as a kind of magnetic invitation to be present. Your awareness becomes dense, concentrated, gathered. This isn't mental focus, which belongs to a different element entirely. This is the ability to be so present in your physical form that the form itself becomes a kind of intelligence. Watch a master craftsperson at work, someone who spent decades learning to shape wood or stone or metal. Their hands know things their minds couldn't articulate. They read the grain of the wood, the stress points in the stone, the temperature of the metal through direct contact. This is earth consciousness in action, not thinking about matter, but thinking through matter, with matter. In Hermetic practice, cultivating earth means learning to inhabit density without becoming dense. It means developing what you might call somatic intelligence, the ability to let your body be a source of wisdom rather than just a vehicle for your thoughts. But here's where it gets interesting. The Hermeticists understood that you can't balance earth by avoiding it or transcending it. You balance earth by fully embracing it and then discovering the other elements within that embrace. This brings us to earth's opposite and complement, the element that where earth is solid and formed, this one is fluid and adaptive, carrying wisdom through constant change. Water is perhaps the most misunderstood element in popular culture, reduced to emotions and feelings and sensitivity. But Hermetic water is something far more sophisticated. It's memory and flow, the quality of consciousness that connects and adapts, that carries information across time and space. Think about how water behaves in the physical world. It takes the shape of whatever contains it, but it never loses its essential nature. It flows around obstacles, finds the lowest point, connects distant places through underground streams and vast ocean currents. It remembers. Every molecule of water on Earth has been through countless forms, has been rain and ocean and river and cloud, and the blood in your veins. Water consciousness works the same way. When you're inhabiting water as a mode of being, you become permeable to information, able to sense the emotional atmosphere of a room before anyone speaks, to feel the connections between seemingly separate things. You develop what we might call adaptive intelligence, the ability to respond fluidly to changing circumstances without losing your center. But water isn't just about receptivity. It's also about memory in the deepest sense, the ability to carry wisdom from one moment to the next, to let experience accumulate and flow into new forms. A person strong in water consciousness doesn't just feel emotions. They understand how emotional patterns move through time, how the past lives in the present, how trauma and healing both flow like underground rivers through generations. The Hermeticists knew that water without the other elements becomes stagnant or overwhelming. Pure water consciousness can drown you in sensitivity or sweep you away in emotional currents. But when water is balanced with Earth's density, fire's direction, and air's clarity, it becomes the element that allows consciousness itself to flow and adapt while maintaining its essential nature. Where water flows and adapts, our next element moves with focused intensity toward what it seeks, transforming everything it touches through the sheer force of directed will. Fire gets a bad reputation in our conflict-averse culture, reduced to anger or aggression or uncontrolled passion. But Hermetic fire is hunger and drive, the quality of consciousness that moves toward what it needs, that transforms obstacles into fuel, that creates direction and purpose. Real fire consciousness isn't about explosion or destruction. It's about having a clear sense of what you're hungry for and the capacity to move toward it with sustained focus. It's the difference between the scattered wanting that characterizes so much of modern life and the concentrated desire that can actually transform reality. When you're inhabiting fire as a mode of being, you develop what we might call directional intelligence, the ability to sense what wants to emerge through you and to give it form through sustained effort. Fire consciousness doesn't just want things. It knows how to want things, how to let desire become a kind of navigation system that guides you toward what's most alive. But fire also transforms whatever it touches. A person strong in fire consciousness doesn't just pursue goals. They understand how the very act of moving toward something changes both you and the thing you're moving toward. They know that real achievement isn't about getting what you want. It's about becoming the kind of person who can handle what you're asking for. The ancient Hermeticists understood that fire without the other elements becomes either destructive or ineffective. Pure fire burns out or burns everything around it. But fire grounded in earth becomes sustainable, cooled by water becomes wise, and clarified by air becomes precise. Then it becomes the element that can actually create lasting change in the world. Air is the element we think we understand best because we associate it with thinking and communication. But Hermetic air isn't about thoughts. It's about distance and clarity, the quality of consciousness that can step back and perceive patterns, that can create space between stimulus and response. When you're inhabiting air as a mode of being, you develop what we might call perspectival intelligence, the ability to see situations from multiple angles simultaneously, to hold complexity without being overwhelmed by it, to find the essential patterns within apparent chaos. Air consciousness doesn't just think about things, it creates the spaciousness within which clear thinking becomes possible. Real air is about elevation, not in the sense of superiority, but in the sense of gaining enough distance to see the larger patterns. It's the quality that allows you to step out of reactive patterns and choose your responses consciously. It's what makes wisdom possible, because wisdom isn't about having the right information. It's about being able to see how different pieces of information relate to each other. But air consciousness also understands connection through distance. Just as the atmosphere connects all living things on Earth while remaining invisible and spacious, air consciousness can hold multiple perspectives simultaneously without losing its clarity. It's the element that makes genuine communication possible, not just the exchange of information, but the creation of shared understanding. The Hermeticists knew that air without the other elements becomes either abstract or detached. Pure air consciousness can leave you floating in concepts, disconnected from the embodied reality of Earth, the flowing wisdom of water, and the transformative power of fire. But when air is integrated with the other elements, it becomes the space within which all the other qualities can operate consciously. Here's what makes this Hermetic understanding revolutionary. These aren't personality types you're born with, or metaphors you think about. They're living capacities you can cultivate. Every human being has access to all four elemental modes of consciousness, and the work of a lifetime is learning to develop and balance them consciously. This isn't about finding your element and staying there. It's about becoming fluent in all four, knowing when each one is called for, how to move between them consciously, and how to integrate them into what the Hermeticists called the quintessence, the fifth element that emerges when the other four are in dynamic balance. The person who has cultivated all four elements doesn't just think with their mind or feel with their heart or act with their will. They think with their whole being, feel with their whole being, act with their whole being. They become what the ancient texts call a complete human, someone who can meet reality with the full spectrum of consciousness. In our fragmented age, we tend to overdevelop one or two elements while neglecting the others. We become all air and no earth, brilliant but ungrounded, or all fire and no water, driven but inflexible, or all water and no fire, sensitive but directionless. The Hermetic path offers something different, the possibility of becoming internally whole, of developing the full range of human capacities. This is why the elements aren't metaphors. They're maps of territory you can actually explore, qualities of consciousness you can actually inhabit, ways of being you can actually cultivate. The question isn't which element you are, it's which elements you've been neglecting and what becomes possible when you start to develop them all. The ancient promise of Hermeticism was that human beings could become conscious participants in the deeper patterns of reality. What if that's not just an ancient dream, but an actual possibility that begins with learning to inhabit the full spectrum of your own consciousness? What if the elements are not just symbols to think about, but ways of being you can actually live?